Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're just gonna give everyone a couple minutes to join and then we'll get started.
Yeah, everyone's doing well. Long weekend coming up, so I'm sure everyone's got lots of plans. So appreciate you taking some time out prior to that. I know everyone's kind of got a bit of a busy schedule, lots of travel probably starting tomorrow. So yeah, so don't worry, we're not frozen. We're just waiting for everyone to log in
Yeah,
for a bit
in
here.
case you just
So
joined.
yeah,
Yeah.
trying to wrap up one of the last few days before the holidays. So
Just before we get started, everyone can see my screen, right? Like Patrick, Adolfo, all good?
yep,
All right.
yeah, we're good to go.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'll get started with the intro, and then that will give everyone a couple minutes also to join as I'm doing the intro. So, hi everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Salma Tawfiq. I'm the Associate Marketing Manager here at Altanora. Today, I'm joined with Patrick, our VP of Sales and Marketing, and Adolfo, our Field CTO. We're here to break down one of the biggest questions we hear from IT teams across different industries today. What is the true cost of VDI in 2025? There are more platform choices than ever. We have on-prem VDI, AWS Workspace Core, Azure Virtual Desktop, and Windows 365. But the price differences and the hidden cost, the management overhead aren't always obvious. So in today's session, we will give you a clear and realistic view of what each option really costs, using a few examples, a few data, a few graphs maybe. So not just the marketing fluff, but really just like true deep dive into real world comparisons. So before we dive in, just a quick few housekeeping items. This webinar will run for approximately 45 minutes, and then we're going to end it with a little demo, followed by a live Q&A session. So please feel free to submit your questions in the chat or in the Q&A section throughout the webinar, and we'll address them at the end. So a recording of the slide deck is usually going to be hosted on our website under the events page. So feel free to browse there or fill out a form and we'll send it to you. With that, I'll pass it over to Patrick, who will take you through a little overview of Altanora, and then Adolfo will take over. I'll pass it on to you, Patrick.
All right, thank you very much, Selma. Appreciate that. So to begin, I think what first thing we'll do is we'll just provide. Sorry, can I advance the slide or? Well, to kind of give you just a quick little overview that we obviously are doing webinars pretty much on a monthly basis right now. If you did miss our last one, you can scan this QR code here and it'll give you the ability to kind of watch that. Plus, if you go into our website, as someone mentioned, and provide us with your contact information, we'll be able to forward you a copy of these webinars as well. Okay, so for today's agenda, as Sama has mentioned, we're going to be talking briefly a little bit about ourselves, just so we can kind of get a sense of the perspective and our experience within the marketplace. So you can understand where we're coming from with our data analytics in regards to VDI deployments. And then, of course, we'll cover off the various types of costs there afterwards and do a true cost of ownership as it relates to all the hidden elements involved with all the different platforms. So you can get a really good understanding of what's included when you're doing these so that you understand the nuances of what the total cost of these are. And then, of course, we'll have Adolfo will run us into a bit of a demonstration, and then we'll do a Q&A thereafter. Okay, so let's begin. So who is Altanora? Well, first and foremost, we're one of the premier VDI specialty firms in North America. We're a partner with supporting all of the major VDI solutions out there. So whether it's Citrix, where we're a double platinum partner and a CPSP partner as well. We also silver and soon to be gold partner with Omnisaw, as well as a gold partner with Microsoft. the reason why we talk about these three technologies specifically, as well as a partner with AWS, is the fact that these are the prominent VDI solutions that we see within the marketplace. Altanora has been supporting these environments and VDI solutions for nearly 2 decades now. We'll be coming up on our 20th anniversary next year. In the services that we provide the traditional product resale, where we obviously provide the licensing for these various solutions, but we also have our own desktop as a service offering, which is an internally hosted solution leveraging these technologies for our customers. We also provide full reactive and proactive VDI support and managed services. Essentially, we can provide technical support on an emergency basis through one of our reactive contracts, or in a proactive engagement, we can provide either a portion of or the entirety of the support for that entire environment, depending on what your particular needs are. We also, of course, do full project deployment and statement of work projects, essentially allowing us to come in and provide either specialized resources or services, or to deliver projects in their entirety. As well, we also have staff augmentation and resourcing services, so that if you do have a skills gap within your team, we can provide specialized resources to work on that specific type of gap. Our offices, we do have global presence, and so we have offices in North America and Europe and in Asia. One important thing to note is that our offices are operated by Altanora employees. These are not subcontracted resources, but rather our resources themselves, our employees, who are working their regular 9 to 5 daily operations. So that's part of the follow the sun support operations that we offer globally. Now, one thing to touch on, because obviously we are talking a little bit about VDI and VDI within the cloud and so on and so forth, we do want to touch real quickly on the fact that Altanora does provide various VDI and infrastructure as a service offerings. Obviously, we have our baseline, which is the co-location, where essentially you bring your hardware to our environment and we provide it in a secure environment with obviously aggressive pricing around spacing and power and so on. We have the dedicated bare metal offering, which allows us to provide just that, the equipment itself, where essentially you get to leverage and manage it the way that you require. Then, of course, we go into more complete offering services such as the VDI hosting, where we can host your VDI solutions, either in a bring your own license model, or we can provide the various licenses, all of that, and managing the various hypervisors and so on and so forth to provide a fully comprehensive solution. Then we also have what we refer to as the Altanora AVD or VMware solution, where essentially we can provide both a multi-tenant or a private VMware cloud environment or tenant, essentially for you to host your workloads in your environment from. We're fortunate to have one of the strongest VMware contracts in North America. So as a result, we're able to offer extreme cost competitive pricing as it relates to compute power, VMware licensing, and so on and so forth, to help bring down the ever rising costs associated with infrastructure these days. And finally, this is just a map of some of the data centers that we have. As you can see, they're predominantly within North America, but we also have data centers in Europe and in Australia, both for main hosting and co-location activities. So once again, we can dive deeper into these for customers who have any specific questions about using one of our infrastructure as a service offerings or desktop as a service. So now I'm going to turn this over to Adolfo, our field CTO, an expert in this area, has been working in this area for well over 20 years, to kind of give you guys an insight in terms of what the analysis is on what the true cost of VDI is. So Adolfo, on to you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us. So as Patrick said, before the holidays, I appreciate the time taken to attend this webinar, and certainly you're going to find this information very valuable. So Salma, I'm going to take over. I'm going to show my screen, actually. And
yeah,
there we go. All right. So talking about the VDI challenges, the cost challenges that a lot of our customers face today, and these are the typical 3 scenarios that we see most of the time that we engage with you or even other prospects. But one of the biggest challenges I will say is the expense. It's too expensive to actually have an infrastructure on premises for obvious reasons. Not only you're taking care of the compute power, but you also need to take care of your full-time employees, your consultants, networking equipment, data center, etc. It is expensive to actually maintain a solution. And not only that, but also to keep up with the latest technologies, the latest features, and so forth. The second challenge that a lot of our customers face is that cloud-first strategy that, again, is being ongoing, I will say almost like 10 years by now. And I've seen this, vividly when I was back at Citrix. This is something that I was, that it was clear for customers that they wanted to make the move to the cloud. And now with AI being the prominent technology nowadays, it's becoming more and more, I will say a priority for a lot of our customers to make this transition. Whether you want to go fully cloud or hybrid, it is still a challenge that you need to make that move from on-premises. So again, we will talk about that in the next few slides. The next one is when you move to your VDI to one of the hyperscalers. Yes, maybe the first few months look perfectly okay, but then you soon realize, oh my God, I'm paying too much. This is not what I was expecting. This is not in my budget. What's happening? So again, we're gonna go over those details later today and how can you actually maximize that value and cost. There we go. So why so many surprises? And again, going back to what I said a little bit earlier, there are essentially five big things that you need to consider when it comes to hosting your own VDI and so forth. First of all, the VDI themselves is not like the typical PC. It's actually big PCs that are actually used for specific business requirements, or in this case, infrastructure requirements for your VDI solutions. And the other one I will say is the Windows 11 requirement. And a lot of the organizations are making that transition from Windows 10 to Windows 11 because of the end of support. A lot of people believes like, okay, if I actually host my Windows desktop in the cloud, all I need is more vCPUs and everything is happy and everything is working as expected. But the reality is not. You actually require more high clock speed, and that's not what really the marketing folks in these hyperscalers tell you about. Is more, oh, you need to just have more vCPUs, and obviously that's going to increase the price. The next step is the hyperscalers, obviously, they don't actually treat the vCPU in a 1-to-1 ratio. Rather, they actually, there's oversubscription in order to obviously host more users per CPU core that they have in-house. Following that, the GPU. And today, with the AI and everything actually being more and more towards how do we actually make the job more easier for our end users, it is becoming very common for customers to actually adopt the GPU cycle and say, I want to actually offload a lot of the CPU intensive, the compute from my processor over to the GPU in order to enhance the user experience. Now, the challenge, which is the last step, the last item, the challenges that customers face when GPUs, and again, you make them move to one of the hyperscalers, is the GPUs that they offer you is either outdated or they're too expensive. There is no middle ground, and this is where it becomes a challenge to obviously host your own solution. Now, when you look at the actual marketplace, it's crazy. There's a lot of actually vendors who actually provide a lot of similarities and a lot of solutions, and everybody keeps saying that we are the best, we provide the best performance, the best cost savings, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it is important for you to understand like there are critical aspects in when you calculate the total cost of ownership, what really matters to you and what really matters to your organization. And in this workshop, we're going to be focusing on the Magic Quadrant leaders: Microsoft AVD, Microsoft Windows 365, AWS Workspaces Core, and our solution, which our solution, by the way, it can run either on Citrix or on Omnisa. It doesn't really matter. Now, for the purpose of this workshop, we're going to be focusing on Citrix, but stay tuned for another workshop that we can actually perform with the Omnisa solution. Now, when it comes to the case studies, these are the case studies that we're going to go over in the next few slides more in depth. We're going to be comparing, the typical task worker, which again is usually the small size VDI solution that they adopt. Next, the office worker, and finally the power user, which more than likely is going to be requiring a lot more compute just to run 3D modeling, rendering applications, and etc. Now, one disclaimer that I want to mention here is this scenario that we're going to go over in the next few slides is for 1,000 user seats. It's going to be the prices that you're going to be seeing here is based upon each vendor pricing calculator. The prices that are shown today are essentially as of today, November 25th, 2025. And obviously they're subject to change because these prices are not are not fixed. They're actually changed over time. So just keep that in mind. But at least it gives you a really good idea of what how the market behaves and where can you what type of solution are you looking for in this case in your scenario. So when you look at all three user profiles, this is pretty much how the typical user profile behaves in the different use cases. The task worker, for instance, the typical maybe one or two apps that the employee requires to do their day-to-day job. Again, perfect scenario for customer service, retail, because maybe they're just using the CRM solution, maybe handling a chatbot, and that's pretty much it. You don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. And that's where from an industry perspective, this is what they recommend. The typical 4 vCPU, 16 gigs of RAM, which is okay, but it's not the best because again, when you run Teams is a very heavy compute application, and that application itself is going to start the experience on the VDI itself is going to be great. The next one is the office worker. Now you're moving one layer up where you need to run big Excel files, pivot tables, you need to analyze data, so on and so forth. Then in this case, which is where the typical use case for the finance analyst, corporate entity that are actually requires to review compliance data and so on. So this is where AVCPU 36 gigs of RAM is the most typical sizing. Next, you have the power user for the GPU, and this is where I was saying earlier. This is where the 3D modeling, rendering applications, this is where they requires the most heaviest compute power, where 16 vCPUs and 64 gigs of RAM is the typical scenario that that I've seen out there that customers get recommended. And this is perfect for architectural companies, engineering design, and so on. That requires actually enough compute power to run these applications. All right, so jumping into the calculation, before to level set all the different scenarios, let's just start with the on-premises. Like how much does it cost more or less to actually run this typical office worker? I mean, any of these workers that I talk about in your data center. Again, this is just a ballpark. Obviously, there is no magic number to actually look at the exact price, but at least it gives you an idea how much does it cost to run each scenario. So from the top, you have your VDI licensing. Again, it could be Omnisa, it could be Citrix, it could be anything else that you desire to use. So again, the price range, and again, this is for 1,000 users, costs around $11,500. Then you come up with your servers, the server compute. How much does it cost you? Again, this is assuming that you have assigning 1.5 to 8 physical cores per user. So we're talking about $26,000. And again, this is including the actual cost of the server over the span of 3 years or 36 months that you have, the server in-house. Storage, again, being very conservative, 128 gigabytes per user. Again, this is high performance storage. The next one is the backup and disaster recovery, which is a critical component, which I noticed that a lot of customers don't have because, again, this is just too expensive to bring up. But the reality is you need to have it. I mean, if it's something that it is critical for your business, you need to have a place that you can have those critical users to continue to work. So the calculation here is based on 2/3 of your main infrastructure. And this is pretty much like the price range that we came up with. Then you have the operating system, scaling, etc. This is again From an operating system, we're assuming that you already have a Microsoft 365 subscription, E3, E5, and so on, which a lot of customers nowadays have. I will say roughly 80 to 90%. And networking, colo costs, those are barely the same thing. Again, this is just an average, just to give you an idea. Internal labor, very important, because how do you actually maintain those images? How do you maintain the user experience software on those individual desktops that you're running in behind the scenes, or in this case, if you're using RDS in-house, remote desktop services. So again, we're calculating on between 2 to 3 full-time employees to have in-house and maintain that solution. And obviously, we cannot forget about the consultants, because if case you need to support or add new capabilities, you need to be able to have that as well in-house. So all in all, this is basically the cost that you can actually see for 1,000 users, depending on the user profile. Obviously, the most expensive is the power user because it requires a lot more compute and resources. But this right here is going to give you an idea how much does it cost per user per month in order to have that same type of infrastructure. Now that we have that in place, let's talk about the hyperscalers. How do the other solutions behave? AVD, for example, the good thing about AVD is, hey, you don't need to worry about the networking and all these different hardware devices anymore in your data center. Now, most of it is in Azure. So this is where the compute costs come into play. So again, more or less, depending on the user profile, this is based on 1,000 users. It ranges from $60,000 all the way up to $422,000. Obviously, the $422,000 is because you're using a GPU, and that's where the exponential price goes up, because again, the GPU that you're getting, even though seems to be okay, the reality is a lower tier version that you should be expecting. Now, if you want like a high-end AI GPU, obviously expect this price to skyrocket even more higher than what it is. The next layer is, how do you plan to manage the solution? Obviously, AVD is just giving you the compute, is giving you the virtual machines, but how do you plan to manage it? And this is with, again, one of the most common solutions out there is Nerdio. And Nerdio actually gives you the management layer. The subscription, more or less, we're calculating to be between $9 average. It could be more, again, depending on what subscription model you pick. But again, just to be in the middle ground, $9,000 for those 1,000 users. The one piece that you also need to consider when running Nerdio in Azure is that Nerdio installs resources in Azure, such as a SQL database, an application service, and so on. And those consume resources from Azure. So you need to take into account that extra cost that comes for you in a monthly basis. Again, just being relatively conservative, this is how much you might be paying per month. Then internal label consultants, backup and disaster recovery. Very important, the backup, because Microsoft, in bare metal, it doesn't give you the disaster recovery options. You have to add it up in order to obviously host your infrastructure. So when you look at the actual per user per month cost, now you start seeing like the prices goes up, and obviously the power is going to be the most expensive, around $737 per user in this case. Next, if we move on to the AWS Workspaces score, this is very similar to scenario as the AVD. The first line you pay for your infrastructure, but then in the case for AWS, you need to pay for a management VDI platform. It could be Citrix, it could be Omnisa, it could be WorkSpot, anything that you prefer. I mean, at least what AWS currently supports. But any of those three, again, we're talking about roughly around $12,000, depending on which one you prefer. But at the same time, you need to still maintain your label costs, your consultants, your backup and disaster recovery infrastructure, because again, this is a solution that you want to keep up and running. The one piece that is different from AVD, if you notice on the 5 gigabytes, 10 gigabytes outbound traffic, this is the egress traffic. And this is something that is not clearly documented in the AWS pricing calculator. So you need to take, again, this is more or less being conservative, but just keep that in mind, because this is something that it might surprise you depending on how much traffic are you handling in these desktops. So all in all, this is pretty much the price that you're paying. Obviously, the power using to be the most expensive, even way higher than AVD. Next, we have the Windows 365, the cloud PC. Similar to AVD, you have the cloud PC. All the infrastructure is running on Azure. In this case, now you're paying for a fully managed, in this case, the VDI itself. So the good thing about it is you don't need to actually pay any extra to manage the cloud PC, because Microsoft, as long as you have Microsoft 365, E3 or E5, you can use Intune to manage those virtual cloud PCs, essentially, and the images and the profiles and so on and so forth. But at the same time, you need to pay for those people who are managing the infrastructure. And this is where the internal labor comes into play. The consultants to obviously keep you up to speed with the latest features and solutions. Don't forget about the backup and disaster recovery. If you notice, the backup and disaster recovery is the same across, just because the way that Microsoft charges Windows 365 is a little bit different. They actually, again, this is an average, around $50 per user. So again, times 1,000, we're talking about $50,000 per month just to keep up that backup and disaster recovery infrastructure. So all in all, this is pretty much the price that you'll be getting with Windows 365, depending on the user profile that you decide to pick. And then comes our final example, which is our own solution. Now, the beauty of our own solution is, yes, you're paying for that infra, just like any other hyperscaler. With the big difference is a lot of the extra costs or the extra features, requirements, they're already included. So, for instance, the Citrix or Omnisa licensing, you don't have to worry about it, because once we work with you and you commit to a particular solution, that cost that you're getting from us is already including the licensing part. The internal labor and consultants, same thing. You don't have to pay anything extra, because our team of experts, they are certified in Citrix, they are certified on Omnisa. We'll make sure that you get the best out of the entire solution that that we're fully deploying for you. Backup and disaster recovery, again, this is the cost that you'll be paying based upon the solution that you pick, the desktop size. And when it comes to egress traffic, we don't charge any egress traffic, so you don't have to worry about if you overcommit or you overusing, nothing. There's no extra charge from that matter. So when you look at the price, you can see a significant price reduction, obviously depending on the user profile, but with the most is the power user. Now, if you actually look at this in a chart, I mean, I guess the chart speaks for itself, but I mean, you can see on the on the left-hand side, we have essentially the user profiles, the power user, the office worker, and the task worker. And essentially, Altanora falls in the yellow line. And you can see, like, whichever solution you decide to pick, you are significantly saving a lot of money. Obviously, the power user being the most, because our solution, our servers, our infrastructure is essentially optimized for VDI. This is the whole differentiator between ourselves and the out there in the market. Is what you get access with us is a highly optimized solution or digital workspace in order to obviously give you the expected results and the expected user productivity. All right, so when it comes to our solution, what are you expecting from us? As you can see, it's a very simple choice, in my opinion. We're giving you a low TCO. It is scalable, depending on your needs, because it's a pay-as-you-go model. You will be paying essentially what you use, and if you need to go high or low, then obviously we can work with you on those details. We're delivering the best user experience possible, again, with the best technologies out there from the VDI solutions. It is a fully managed 24/7 around the world. You don't have to worry about anything. It's just connect, work, and that's it. And obviously the end-to-end security that you should be expecting from any vendor. Now, what makes ourselves apart from the others? this is the same, I don't know if for those of you who attended the previous webinar, this is the same exact slide, but for those of you who missed it, basically what makes our uniqueness is every DaaS solution, it is custom. It is actually tailored to your needs. It is not like we're giving you everything that is already pre-built and default. We will actually make sure it is custom in delivering the expectations that you're looking for. It is also a CMMC certified in ITAR environment. Again, for those customers looking for a public sector solution or highly tight solution in place that you want to keep your data in perimeter in place. You're free room to grow. Again, we're flexible when it comes to growing the solution. GPU ready, as I said, again, these are highly optimized servers that we're hosting in-house in order to give you the best user experience possible. And as I said, this solution is powered by the best virtualization technology out there. Again, that is going to match your security, user experience, and productivity. So when you look at in simple terms, the way that you can think about Altanora VDI is, we're giving you the best of both worlds. You can essentially use ourselves as your single management solution to aggregate all of your different, VDI services like AWS, Microsoft, and so on, and be able to actually see it in one place through, again, our Altanora DaaS solution. So, and the best of all is going to be cost effective because you don't have to actually pay anything extra. Everything is there for you. The beauty of it is we can also connect to your on-premises or colo. So again, you don't have to rip and replace anything yet. You can little by little at least get the feeling of how our solution looks like, and obviously grow as the time goes by. So when you look at this in the from a Citrix standpoint, I mean, the beauty of the solution that you're getting out of this is unbelievable, because you're getting a lot of different technologies all bundled together. It's just a matter of using what you using and matching what you're looking for. So what you get, for instance, on the security front, app protection, an enterprise browser, advanced monitoring with Uber Agent. We can also record, we can do session recording based on end user behaviors and so on. From an IT management, auto scaling is already there for you by default. Power management, so you can actually turn on and turn off specific VMs that you have hosted in Microsoft Windows 365 or AVD. You can use app layering in order to actually mask applications if you desire. Different machine creation services in order to manage those desktops. The WEM, workspace environment management, to optimize the, to essentially optimize the user desktops in order to host more users per VDI that you're connecting. Next one is the user experience. Obviously, the unmatched HTX technology or protocol that Citrix has out there. And when it comes to video conferencing, all the optimization is already there for you to utilize. It's just a matter of tweaking it and making sure that you're getting what you're expecting. And again, this is just an example of how it will look like. Like, for instance, you don't have to, as I said, you don't have to rip and replace your existing solution to go one vendor. You can actually have a hybrid solution, which in my case is what I tend to tell my customers: don't go all one in one solution. Make sure that you have a hybrid solution in case somebody goes down. As you have seen in previous weeks and months, AWS, Microsoft, and so on, I mean, they're not perfect. They also go down, and when the services go down, that means that employees goes down because they cannot connect to their services and to their VDIs. So it's definitely something that you may want to consider. And this right here, this is your single pane of glass to connect from an end user standpoint and be able to access the resources that you're looking for. Now, the beauty of all of this that I've been telling you, like how do you make sure that you connect, let's say, your data center or your hyperscaler VDI solution with our solution? As you can see, Altanora is also a member of the Megaport solution list that you can actually say, listen, I want to essentially extend my data center over to Altanora so I can host maybe GPU-powered VDI solutions for my contractors or for my engineers and so on. So again, the idea is that you don't have to actually start from scratch. You can actually extend what you have, and obviously it's a fully managed solution, so you don't need to worry about the maintenance, the patching, and all of that that comes with it. All right, now let's jump into the demo. It's demo time. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure. And for those of you who are noticing the CMMC, that doesn't mean that this is a CMMC environment yet. For the purpose of this demo, we're gonna go over like some general examples, some general purpose computing, like what would you be doing in a typical database basis? And yes, these expect more video demos in specifically on the CMMC side from a secure enclave perspective. What can you do, what you cannot do, the session recording capabilities that I explained earlier, all of that can be done in the same solution that I'm showing right here. So give me 1 second. Let's see. All right, so that's 70. All right, let me go ahead and connect to the desktop. Now, this specific desktop is GPU powered, so you're gonna see a lot of the user experience being enhanced when it comes to obviously Teams. Obviously, if you're connecting to an application that requires 3D modeling or rendering, you're gonna see that in the next few seconds. Of course. All right, so let me go ahead and connect here. So one of the good things about the, before I dive into show you like the experience and all that, one of the things that I wanna show you here is, for instance, the toolbar. Now, the cool thing about the toolbar is you can tell, for instance, whether your connection is good or bad, depending on where you're coming from. Right now, I'm actually connected at home. Obviously, there are kids at home watching YouTube, Netflix, you name it, and obviously the performance is gonna be great, but all in all, this is the beauty of the technology. It's gonna adjust the bandwidth behind the scenes dynamically in order to give me the best user experience possible on, in this case, on my working desktop. You can actually see here like the actual network, the actual latency. You can also see what are the details on the local device that I'm connecting from. What is the virtual desktop that you're connecting as well? What type of gateway are you using? In this case, we're using the gateway service provided by Citrix in the cloud. So again, really good things. As you can see, the actual status changes dynamically based on the connection status that that you see here on in this case at home. The preferences, you can actually act depending on the type of solution that you're delivering, but you can have the desktop access your local printers. You can access your local drives in order to access, maybe transfer local files over to your desktop, or actually work inside the desktop from your local files. So I mean, the possibilities are actually endless. You can define also the connections. If I'm plugging in, for instance, a USB camera or USB microphone, it will dynamically detect the connection, and it will essentially tell me, hey, would you like to use this headset versus the other in order to continue the conversation? Display, you can actually adjust the display and the settings, based on the scale. And you can also adjust the monitor layout, again, if you want to actually go a little bit crazy. The next piece is shortcuts. Again, this is just to show you, you can actually switch in between applications. In this case, I only have one app, but it's, again, the same functionality that you get in your local machine. Control Alt Delete. And like I said, is pretty much it. So let me show you, for instance, if I go to a 3D modeling page. So as you can see, I mean, the experience, the quality is amazing. I'm actually moving right now the helmet around. You can see the level of detail remains the same. The lighting actually changes dynamically, obviously, as I move the 3D helmet. So, and again, this is the expected behavior from, again, if I'm an engineer who's working on this particular design and I'm making changes, I want things to be behaving very quickly, regardless where I'm connecting from. If it's working from home, if I'm working from the office, all in all, the idea is that this is your workplace to make those changes and make sure the, again, your data, your application remains secure in one location. Just to give you another quick example from a 3D point of view, this is basically like a 3D house. Again, this was actually designed using Revit from Autodesk, and again, you can actually switch. Again, I'm very bad moving my mouse around in the house, but you can tell. Let me just move it here. You can actually have the 2D view. You can have the 3D view as well. You can actually zoom in. And again, you can actually zoom in inside the house so you can see the actual living room, etc. So again, really nice features, really nice capability. And again, it's all being powered by, again, the GPU, the servers that we have in-house, everything just to give you the best possible experience. Same thing with Teams. Actually, before we jump into the Teams, let me show you something. What about if I want to open large document files? And this is a perfect example. For instance, I have here, this is a big Excel document that has around like a 50,000 Excel rows. So again, this is just like gibberish data, by the way. I just found this on the net. But basically, you can just take the data. You can create pivot tables based on your needs. And again, as you can see, the user experience, the responsiveness is there. I haven't seen any difference, even though, again, I'm using this very large file, which is 50 megabytes inside the virtual desktop. Same goes with an Office document. This one is a 30 megabyte document, which may seem small, but again, it includes text, graphics, is basically is over 175 pages with text, with images, and again, as I scroll down, you can see that the actual experience and feeling is the same. Nothing gets compromised. And the other piece I want to show you is playing a video. As you can see, the video is playing really smooth, and I don't see any degradation whatsoever. Let me see if I can pull up here so you can see basically where is where is the compute going right now. Is again, the majority of the compute is going, well, I will say is between the CPU and the GPU, as you can see on the bottom right-hand side. But again, as you can see, the feeling and the look and feel is just outstanding. It's just perfect. Let me just quickly show you the Teams example. For this Teams example, what I'll be doing is I'm just going to show you that I can show my camera behind the scenes. I don't think I have anything. Let me just make sure I close the door of my closet. I want you guys to see anything you're not supposed to. But let me show you fairly quick here that essentially the video being rendered inside Teams, inside this desktop, is basically optimized. So you don't have to, again, worry about, oh my God, my video is choppy and so on. And let me just go to settings. I'm just waiting for the pop-up to log in. There we go. Of course, the extra security that we cannot forget. All right, so let me go to the devices. Let me just quickly turn off my camera from the webinar so you guys can see me. Probably doesn't. There you go. You see, I'm actually right now, this is using Teams inside the VDI. And yep, I close a little bit of my closet, but you can see that's the kids' clothes. But yeah, as I said, the whole solution is highly optimized to give you the best possible user experience with, again, I will say in a fraction of the price that you're paying to other solutions. So definitely is worth the try. Let me go and close this out. Let me go back to, all right, we're back in business. Let me go back. So why Altanora? I mean, we are the experts on this business, as you can see. We know what we're doing. We've been doing this almost close to 20 years. We are one of the largest teams in VDI experts in North America. So definitely we have the people, we have the expertise. Now is more of how can we help you succeed and how can we help you deliver the value that you're looking for. So as Patrick mentioned, we have offices around the world, 24/7, for our managed services. So we're looking forward to work with you and obviously give you the value that you're looking for. If you guys are interested in a free workshop, obviously to calculate your own TCO, please scan the QR code. We're happy to actually be with you 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on how long does it take, but at least let us sit with you one-on-one basis, calculate those costs for you, because obviously the prices that we went over is more like an average, but obviously each customer has its own budget in cost perspective. So.
Oh, thank you very much, Adolfo, for the very insightful overview of diving down into every TCO when going through all the data. So if you want to do the same thing for your own organization, you want to compare costs with what you're doing right now, as Adolfo mentioned, feel free to. Adolfo, do you mind leaving the QR code just a little longer for people if they would like to scan? So please scan the QR code. It's gonna take you to a form to fill out on our page. As soon as we get that form, we'll reach out, we'll schedule a call. It could be over an hour even, whatever it takes to make you understand the true cost of VDI for you. Thank you so much for attending our workshop and our webinar today. And we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars. So stay tuned for our LinkedIn. You're going to see all our future webinars. And feel free to reach out to also our sales team, our marketing team, our technical team for any questions.
So with that, do we have any, questions in the chat?
Let me check the Q&A. I don't believe any came through. I was keeping an eye. Yeah, we don't have any. So hopefully people maybe are a little bit shy, so maybe they'll reach out after. But yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to attend the webinar today. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone.